What's up, guys? Thanks so much for clicking on the video. My name is Leah, and let's recap and review season 2 of Feud, Capote versus the Swans, episode 7. So let's get into it. All right, y'all. So the episode opens up and we see Babe getting ready for her day. She's in front of the mirror, she's fluffing out her hair, and then a couple of strands of her, clumps of hair come out, and she is not happy, and neither would I be, okay? That is not something I would want to experience. So they call the doctor that we saw earlier in the season, and she's like, "You told me this chemo would not it would not make my hair fall out." And the doctor's like, "Well, it affects people in different ways. Like, I'm sorry about that." And so then she tells the doctor, like, "I'm tired. Like, I'm tired of fighting. Like, how long do I really have to live?" So then the scene switches and it's Bill and Babe speaking about it. And Bill was like, "He really said you only got 6 months to live? He really said that?" And Babe is like, "Well, no, but I asked him would I make it to Thanksgiving, and he just shook, he put his head down and kind of just looked at me sadly. So no, I know I got 6 months to live." So then Bill is like, "Well, there's this new FDA drug, and like we can use this." And Babe is just looking at him like, "I'm tired." And she tells him, "I'm tired. Also, I'm tired of you giving me orders." And Babe is steady smoking. And I'm like, don't you think that's adding to what's happening to you? And Bill is like, "Girl, why are you smoking?" And he snatches the cigarette out her hand and like puts it out because he's like, "They told you to stop smoking." I said, "Okay." Because I'm like, when is somebody going to tell her, "Girl, you got lung cancer. This is causing it. This probably helped with it." And then she has an attitude with him, and Bill brings up like, "You would forgive Truman before you would forgive me." And Babe is kind of looking at him like, yeah, I would. And so she then talks about how she self-medicated herself because Bill was like, "Is it that bad to like be around me and all of this stuff?" And she was like, "Pretty much, yeah. I medicated myself like when it came to the things you did to me, putting up with you, with scotch, with pills, with smoking." And I was just like, "Well, girl, okay, that sounds like a you problem, not a Bill problem, but all right." And so then they talk. She brings up her daughter, one of her daughters, Kate, where she's like, she won't like speak to me. And then Bill is like, "It's because you're a cold person." Like, and then I think Babe said something where she calls Bill Paisley. And Bill was like, "I used to think that was just like going to go away eventually. But I realized that's just what you going to call me because you don't really like fool with me like that no more." And then they start arguing back and forth about how cold Babe is. And Babe is just like, don't question my mothering when you weren't really a good father either, like the way you treat your sons." And Bill kind of looked at her like, "Yeah, but I ain't as bad as you." And then Bill says, "You know what? I will try my best to get Kate to like return to you and speak to you. Sometimes she listens to me." I feel bad in this scene, but then again, I don't, because it's like, it's hard for me to feel bad for Babe, especially after, was it episode 5 when we found out that they were all cheating on each other. On top of that, it's like, they said it the first episode. Babe was like, "I'm going to divorce him." And then that's when Truman tells her, like, "Are you sure you want to do that? You're not going to do that because you're going to end up like being in some house off the countryside in New York going insane." So it's not like she didn't have options. It's like she just wouldn't I think it's like her commitment to perfection is what kept her to be with Bill. Because one, Bill was the owner and founder of CBS, so it's like that in of itself is big. He has all of this money. They're the picturesque family, a mom, a dad, 2 girls, 2 boys. They got all this money. They're white and wealthy. And I think her getting a divorce would have like killed that perception of her. But she probably would have been free because you did all that self-harming to yourself, smoking excessively, popping pills excessively, drinking. And then to find out before Bill and her got into it, I think she said her dad had cancer or had a disease. So I'm like, what? So you knew it was kind of like genetic or hereditary. So it's like, I understand Bill is trash. Like, don't get me wrong, Bill is trash. Like, cheating so boldly and disrespecting Babe so loudly. But it's like, Babe, you could have left. You might not have had the life that you have now with the ladies. But you see, Slim left. Slim was like, I stayed with a man 10 years and then I'm out. And it's like, you could leave, but you didn't want to kill that picture of perfection of that you had for yourself that you presented to the public. So we then get this scene with the ladies at their favorite restaurant, and it's CZ, Lee, Slim, and Babe. And Lee is kind of being upset that the guy that she talked about in the last episode about him marrying, like, I think he's ready to marry me. He wants to give her a prenup, and she has like the ring. So then they start talking about Truman. Babe asked CZ, so how is Truman? And CZ was like, I'm glad you brought him up. You should probably call him because he's not doing great. And then Babe makes this face, and then CZ is kind of like, girl, I think your rage is pretty much misplaced and for yourself. Like, you were too worried about Lee, Slim, and Bill and what they would think of you if you were to reconcile with that man. So then Slim tries to speak up, talking about it's morality. He really hurt us. And then Babe interjects, and then she's like, is it morality or is it perception? Like, when are we going to move beyond what happened between us and him? Like, now it's like a part of our story. And she was like, I wish I would have just laughed it off and moved on, but I didn't do that. And she was like, really, like, none of us could really forgive him because of how hard we like went at him and held on to our anger. Now, if we were to forgive him, we would be the laughing stock of like high society because we dogged him out like that. So then Babe brings up that she wants to throw a party, and they were like, oh yeah, like when, like it would be great to throw a party. She said the summer when I die. I said, first of all, lady, you did not have to tell your friends like that. The summer when I die. Everyone's like, girl, what? CZ is about to cry, and Babe's like, don't cry, don't cry. Lee is just like, are you serious? Slim is holding on to Babe's hand, and she's like, you know what? No regrets. I lived my life. I said, have you, ma'am? Because, girl, what? That was just a horrible way to tell them people that you're dying. So basically what she's talking about is her repast. Like, she wants this party as her repast because she's saying have this, have that, have they, still trying to be perfect even till the end. And so the ladies are upset and distraught. We then get this scene of like Babe getting home after having lunch with the ladies, and she hears Bill on the phone with Kate, pretty much trying to push Kate to speak to her mom. Like, just speak to her mom. Like, time is running out. You need to speak to her. Babe goes into the other room and she picks up the phone, but she puts her hand over the bottom part of the phone, so like they can't hear her like breathing or listening to the phone call. That girl pretty much said that lady did, like, my mom never cared about me unless I, like, she was like, I probably would have had better chances of her really caring about me if I was a dog. Like, other than that, she was never really there for me. And maybe I'll, like, once she's dead, maybe I'll come around. And Babe was like, oh my God. I said, oh girl, you did a number on your children. Even Bill was like, she wasn't built to be a mother. And I'm like, if she wasn't built to be a mother, why did you keep impregnating her? Y'all had 4 kids. You should have stopped at 1. You should have let it go. So the next scene we get is Babe pulling up to, I guess, their summer house. I think they're in the Hamptons. And you can tell she's a lot older, or a lot like the cancer is really weighing on her, because it does look like time has passed a little bit, but like, it's only been a few months, but she looks a little older. So they pull up to the house. She has her driver, and then she has a nurse there with a wheelchair just in case she needs to sit down. And the doorman is like, oh, hi, Mrs. Paisley, like, come in, we have everything ready. And she's like, I just want to walk around. And he's like, oh, okay, cool. So the nurse follows her, and she's just looking out at this the landscape, and she's just walking around, and you can tell that like the energy in her is like leaving, but she's talking to herself, because I guess she's writing like we always saw her write down everything, like everything she did perfect. And she's talking about that, how she wrote everything down because if she did that, she thought if everything was perfect, time would stop and she could live in that moment forever. But she's realizing that perfection is only borrowed, like it's nothing that can last forever. And so they're cooking dinner. And I found this scene to be so irritating a little bit because I'm like, so when you're dying, you want to like give props to the help, like your cooks, your maids, the doormen, the gardeners, the people that make everything you want to go seamlessly and be perfect. You finally want to thank them at your last moments, because it's a scene of everybody that works for Bill and Babe sitting down at the table laughing and eating. And it's funny because it's like, it reminds me of, I think that was episode 6, where we had James Baldwin, where Truman speaks about how, the juxtaposition, like when they first had that party, it was black people serving them, and how he said Truman was like, the gays are for entertainment, but other minorities are there for labor. And it's like, now that the lady's dying, she wants to have this dinner to like thank them for like their services. And I was like, girl, okay. And so she is talking about this moth, where she was like, she saw a moth in the house and how it was inside of a lamp, and it was attracted to the lamp but also caught. And she was like, if it only knew that like the way to get out was so easy, then it would have done that. And she's looking into the lamp where I guess she sees another moth again. And like, I thought she was about to pass out at the table with everybody around. But then she goes like, no. And then she wakes up. And when she wakes up, she's, I think, back at her penthouse, looking a lot younger. And Truman is there all dressed up, and he looks a lot younger too. And she was like, where are we? Why are there fireworks? She was like, girl, we're at the East Side River. So maybe they weren't at the penthouse. They were probably at like a really nice hotel. And she's like, oh my gosh, Truman. And she's like excited to see him. Truman puts this really beautiful like pink dress on her. And she was like, I don't know why I never wore this. And he was like, yeah, we were supposed to go to the Oscars 1986. And he's putting on pearls on her necklace, not putting on this pearl necklace that is obviously fake. And Truman is like, these are fake, right? But I bought them for you because I knew you would love them. And she was like, they're better than the real ones. And she's like, I've worn them before and the girls have never noticed. And they're walking around the room. They're just reminiscing. And then Babe is putting on her makeup and she's sitting down. And she's like, Truman, can I tell you a secret? And he's like, girl, you know how I keep your secrets. And then they laugh it off because that man gonna tell all your business. And she says, you're my top 3. And he was like, top 3 what? And she was like, top 3 like people in my life where it's like we collide. Like, you love and hate this person. This person is like a mirror towards you, and you can get mad at them, but you can never really get rid of them, because at the end of the day, they are you, and they're a precious resource because they show you who you are, and you just collide and you mix together. And so Truman is like, wow. And then they start mentioning the 3s, like, like the Holy Trinity, peanut butter and jelly. No, that's 2. Yeah, that's 2. I think they said breakfast, lunch, and dinner, morning, noon, and night. I think they said something, I forgot. I was like the moon and the stars or something like that. Or whatever. Y'all know what I mean. Pairs of 3. Jesus, God, and the Holy Spirit. Y'all know what I mean. 3s. And Babe is like, I love 3s. So she's like, okay, like, let's get your bath ready. And she's all dressed up. And she's like, what do you mean? I thought we were leaving. He was like, oh, then we need to stop the water. So they go into the bathroom, and it's this really pretty swan swimming in the bathtub. And Babe gets scared. And she was like, am I dying? Like, am I dead? And he was like, no, you're in your final hour. You're about to be. And she's like, I'm scared. Like, what if I'm not ready? And Truman was like, I'll be here with you as long as you need me to be. Like, we can look at the fireworks as long as you want to. And then she hugs Truman and she's like, she has regret. She was like, I'm not, like, she was like, I didn't fix everything I wanted to. And Truman is like, that's just how life is. You don't get to fix everything. You just don't. And so as they're talking, like Truman is reading, like is writing, like I think Babe's eulogy in the dream, but also like in the afterlife as well. And Truman says sometimes things come together, and we finally see Kate come. Mind you, I don't know how her kids were just watching her die and Bill watching her die. I don't know if I could do that. I don't. You got the son sitting in the back, and you got the one daughter, she's sitting there, and then Kate runs in and touches her face because, Kate was like, I ain't showing. I'll come after she did. And they sit down and they just watch Babe like take her final breath, and then Bill just breaks down holding Babe's hand because he was by her bedside as she passed away. And then Truman ends it saying her kids finally saw how beautiful she was. So we then get this scene of CZ going to Truman's apartment, and she's like trying to wake him up, and he's like, Babe's dead. Like, he just knew she was gone. So then Truman is like, I gotta get to work. And CZ is like, what do you mean you gotta get to work? Like, what do you mean, Truman? And he was like, I'm writing Babe's eulogy. Like, I have to give it at the funeral. And CZ's like, Truman, please don't make me give you any more bad news. And he was like, what? And CZ was like, I really tried my best. Like, I really tried to reason with Bill, but he doesn't want you at the funeral. And then Truman's like, well, I'll just crash it. And CZ's like, they're going to be guards there, Truman, and they're going to hurt you. And he's like, but I have to do it. It's Babe. Like, she would want me there. And so CZ has been such a wonderful friend to him. Like, even though like he didn't really write about her in the book like that, still to have everybody in high society like turn their backs on Truman, and she still be there and like try to be a genuine friend to him and tell him when he was wrong and be honest with him, because she was like, I'll sit here and read, like, just read it to me. Like, that takes a lot, because I don't know if I could handle my friend just dying, and then my friend that wants to be at the funeral but can't because he did it to himself, listening to him write such kind words about her without like breaking down and sobbing. Because what Truman wrote was very much like, she was my other half. Like, I think Truman really loved Babe. Like, he definitely hurt her, but it's just like the love, like what he wrote, I thought was beautiful, to say like that, like, you were me and I were you, and I was happy when I was around you. Like, he pretty much said, you saw me when nobody else saw me. And it's hard to let go of people that truly see who you are in a world where you feel like you're constantly misunderstood and constantly judged. So it's the funeral. They have the repast. Everybody is in a very like somber and like uncomfortable mood, especially Slim, CZ, and Ali. The kids are sad. Babe is surrounded by a bunch of hyenas. I'm like, the lady ain't even been put in the ground yet. If you was gonna try to shoot your shot, at least give it a few months. And Bill ain't nothing but a whore. Like, why are you not standing with your kids, comforting them? Like, you had one job, sir. One job. So next thing you know, Slim is like, Truman should have came. And they're like, are you for real? Like, you, the main one who wanted to take him out, you really think he should have came? And she's like, yeah, it would have, like, she was like, honestly, none of this paid off for him. That book didn't pay off. He really doesn't have any friends like that. But then you realize that the ladies were like, Babe was the glue to the group. Like, they're like, do y'all want to go get lunch? And all of them are like, yeah, but like their schedules aren't like mixing. You got like, hey, let's go to a different restaurant. And I'm like, yeah, y'all friendship is over. Especially when CZ was like, let's keep in touch. I was like, yeah, this friendship is dead. Because Babe was the glue. The next thing we see is Truman on TV drunk as hell. I mean, drunk, slurring his words. Like, it's bad. It's bad. And then next thing you know, he ends up in a hospital, and Jack is in the hospital with him. And Jack's pretty much telling him, like, you're in a detox. Truman is like, don't patronize me. But Jack is like, yeah, Truman, I no, it didn't. And you could tell that Truman is like incoherent because he was like, "Oh, I have to finish Babe's eulogy," and Truman like, no, he was like, "I have to get ready for Babe's funeral," and Jack was like, "Truman, the funeral was 2 weeks ago. Like, what are you talking about?" And they're talking, and Jack is like, "You know what? I found somebody. I mean, I love him. I don't know if I love him or not, but like, he's kind towards me, and this is the last time we're gonna talk. This is my goodbye to you," and he's also telling Truman, like, where is the book? Because Truman is like, I'm almost done with answered prayers. And Jack is like, Truman, no, you're not. You have different pieces of it scattered throughout the house on yellow notepads, but you haven't really sat down and really wrote, like, you haven't put it together. So when you pass away, that's going to be something I'm going to have to give to, like, the publishing company. And so just tell me where everything is, because I don't want to really have to scavenge for it. So then Jack brings up, again, finding the love of his life, finding a new boo. I won't say love of his life, but he found love. And Truman is like, gloating, like how he kind of has like an attitude, but Jack is tired. He's like, what did all of this get you? Like, either you sober up and you get clean so you can live the rest of your life out better, or you're just gonna die. And Jack is like, yeah, I'm just kind of done. And Truman is like, I'm so cold. And Jack gets up to put a blanket on him, and Truman is like, don't leave me. Like, the only person I have is Joanne. I can't lose you, Jack. And Jack is kind of like, I can't do this anymore. So he says, I'm so cold again. And then we get this scene where it switched. So I was like, okay, was he like thinking about when he had a conversation with Jack in the hospital at the detox center, or is this another dream? But I think it was a real conversation. And he's like, I'm so cold. And you see Joanne wet, like her hair is wet, her clothes are wet, and Truman's wet. And we find out that Truman pretty much like tried to basically committed, what, like he jumped into the pool. He thought he saw the cute handyman Rick, and he jumps into the pool with Rick, because Rick was like, you gonna get in the pool? Then when he's in the pool, he like swims up. All his notepads are around him as he's swimming. He pops up, and it's Babe on like a inflatable swan in an all black dress, pretty much signifying like you're dying. And then Joanne is like, it like puts Truman in bed, because she was like, Truman, you're so cold. Like, you're not making sense. Because then he talks about he was going to move to China where there's no phones, there's no this and that. And Joanne is like, Truman, you're scaring me. You're not making sense. And then she was like, okay, I need to call 911 so you can go to a hospital. And Truman's like, no more hospitals. I'm sick of hospitals. I'm tired. I don't want to do this anymore. So then Joanne leaves Truman in his room at her house, because that's where he is in California, because she's like, Truman, you're in California. Because he was like, where am I? Why is California so cold? Because he's dying. And she goes and dials 911. But when she does it, like, they're like, hello, like, what's your emergency? Like, what's going on? She doesn't say anything. Like, I think she was coming to the realization that, like, he doesn't want to go to the hospital. He's tired of fighting. I just need to let him go. So she hangs up the phone, and then we see this scene of Truman like waking up in Joanne's house. The day, because day is turning into night with Joanne, but with Truman in his dream, where he's transitioning the same way Babe was transitioning, he wakes up and it's morning and it's Babe, and she's in her, she looks a lot younger. She looks healthy. She opens up the curtains. They're throwing shade at Joanne's house and her decor. And they're just reminiscing the same way Truman and Babe were reminiscing when Babe was in her last hours. That's the same thing that's happening with Truman. And they're talking about breakfast at Tiffany's and how he promised he would never write a story about her, about Babe, but he did anyway. But she was like, all is okay. And then Babe tells Truman, I promise you, when you let go, you'll be fine. Just close your eyes and let go. So Truman closes his eyes with Babe's help. And then we get this scene of Joanne saying he's gone. Like, she's calling Jack, and he's like, he's gone, Jack. And Jack's like, for real. And we see Jack and the new guy that he's with. And the guy's like, oh my goodness. Because the new guy was the one that told Jack to make sure Truman got into the detox center. Because Jack told Truman in the hospital, I was going to let you just lay in a pool of your own vomit. But because of him, I'm here to help you. And so Jack's like, did he say anything? And Joanne said, he called out for his mom, and then he ended it with beautiful Babe. And you see this scene of Babe and Truman walking along the side of like the lake or a beach, just enjoying each other's company and just happy to see each other. And that's where it ended. I honestly felt like this could have been the last episode. Like, they could have just ended it here. I know there's one more episode, but I felt like this tied everything together. Like Truman never finished his book. Babe and him never reconciled, and the only way they could reconcile was in the afterlife. And it was Babe coming to terms with the realization that her perfection was stifling her. And the sad reality for Truman is that he never got the help he needed because he never wanted to face reality. So I feel like they should have just ended the season here, but I know there's another episode. But that is it. That is all. Remember to be bravely authentic, you guys. And definitely drop down in them comments below and let me know your thoughts. And I'm out, y'all. Deuces.